can't have them do anything without permission. But beyond that, we're now being told in city after city, state after state, that you can't give food to homeless shelters. Well, we started a program for Restoring Love, which is happening this summer here in Dallas at Dallas Cowboys Stadium. And so far, we have raised just about 1 million meals for the homeless. You have been so unbelievably generous. Just this show, and that's without Jerry Lewis, coming out with somebody with a big check, one of those big, 7-Eleven checks. This is just regular people giving 1 million meals for the homeless. Pushing back, standing up, and living what you believe. Entrepreneurship and small government. Got to live the principles. Rand Paul is a guy who lives the principles and is getting an awful lot of heat. At least this week you were getting heat earlier because of some of the supporters of your father. You came out and you supported Mitt Romney, and now you're getting heat from those guys. How is your dad even dealing with this, Rand?
Well, the thing about the internet is the people who are the most unhappy are often the really smallest amount of your supporters. When we look at our supporters overall, my supporters, my dad's supporters, libertarian conservatives in general, the vast majority are not, these angry folks, preaching, violence to me and my family because we've endorsed Governor Romney. So I think really sometimes the extremists on the internet get more credit than really the entire movement, and they shouldn't represent the entire movement. I try to look for commonalities, areas where we agree, and, Governor Romney, I've had a meeting with him. We've talked extensively about Audit the Fed, which is very important not only to me, but my father and to his supporters. And I think there's a very good chance we get it in the platform. There's been an announcement in the House that we're going to get a vote in the House, and I'm working with both Republican and Democrat leadership to try to get a vote here. But some of my dad's supporters don't realize that if you call people names and call them evil, they're less likely to allow you to have a vote on something you really want to pass.
Hang on just a second. You're saying that Romney may put Audit the Fed into the platform?
Well, the Ron Paul supporters are going to be about 200 or 300 delegates there are going to help him to do that. But he has already said publicly that he's for Audit the Fed. That he has said many times. As far as the specific bill, we would like him to endorse the specific bill, but that my father has introduced that'll be voted on. But publicly, he's already stated that he is in support of auditing the Fed.
Rand, and I want to talk to you a little bit about drones here in a second, but I know you're a big fan of Broke. I have to send you a new copy of Cowards, because there's a chapter specifically that I would like you to read about libertarianism, and I'd like to have you on just to talk about it and see where you think I might be wrong or I might be missing the boat. The chapter is all about that libertarianism, the chair was taken away from the table by the big government progressives in the Republicans and the Democratic Party. And they are many of the people that are defining what a libertarian is, that you have to be this crazy, we never went to the moon and we should never have a government dollar for absolutely anything kind of people. And that's not what libertarianism is.
Well, even Ronald Reagan said the very heart and soul of conservatism is libertarianism, and many of the people who were in the founding movement in this last century of the conservative limited government movement also embraced the term libertarian. So if libertarian just means believing in limited constitutional government, there's a lot of folks who are libertarians.
All right, let me talk to you about drones, because I find this frightening, not only that the government is doing it, but that the American people don't seem to care.
Well, I think it's incredibly important that we restate what was in, our founding fathers were very concerned about the idea of general warrants. Basically, the government could just say they could search anywhere, anytime without having probable cause or naming who they were going to search. That's sort of, if anything, could possibly be general surveillance or general, searching of your privacy. It would be a drone, because the ability to get information and to do it anywhere, anytime is just amazing. And it can be used for good, but it also can be used for harm. And so we need to make sure we have the constitutional protections in place. And some have said, well, your bill just restates the Constitution, that you have to obey the Fourth Amendment. Well, I think it needs to be restated, because I'm afraid I'm afraid Mayor Bloomberg's going to be going over my backyard barbecue, seeing if anybody's got a big gulp, or whether or not I'm separating my recyclables correctly. So we already have a lot of a nanny state, and all they need is the perfect surveillance equipment to really make it a bad situation.
I mean, Ren, there's a quote from Bloomberg. I have to send this to you. It's amazing. He was talking about surveillance on New York City, and he said, correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, but I think this is almost a direct quote. We can't have people thinking that they can just go anywhere they want.
Well, when you were talking about lemonade stands, I was thinking of Thoreau's essay on civil disobedience, and I was thinking, you know what? Do you think he could ever have contemplated in his lifetime that civil disobedience would someday be putting up illegal lemonade stands by school kids?
I mean, you know what happened yesterday? We had about 1,000 people here in Texas at this lemonade stand. We had about 400 of them all around the country. And here in Texas, we had about 20 Occupy Wall Street people protesting children having a lemonade stand to benefit the homeless. I mean,
have you heard about the Dollarite family? They're from Missouri, and the Department of Agriculture fined them $90,000 for selling bunnies with the wrong license. They actually had a license for selling bunnies, but they had the wrong license. They fined them $90,000 because they fined them for every bunny they had sold. And apparently, bunnies reproduce like rabbits. And they told them, though, if they didn't pay on time, it'd be $3.1 million if they didn't pay within 30 days.
Did they pay it?
They fought it, and interestingly, after about a year, and the Department of Agriculture got somewhat embarrassed by this thing, they came back to them and they wanted a consent agreement. But you know what they wanted them to sign after they finally were red in the face and they had discovered that they were embarrassed by this? They wanted them to sign and say they would never be involved with mating or reproducing animals again. These people live on a farm in rural Missouri, and they want to tell them they can't reproduce their livestock. And so they wouldn't sign, and this went on and on. I'm not sure exactly where it is now. It was John and Judy Dollarite from Missouri, and it's just another example of an out-of-control government.
Why do you think this stuff is happening? Do you think, I was thinking about all this regulation, and I thought, okay, in many places now, they are, and this is amazing to me, they are now saying in Philadelphia that you cannot feed the homeless in places where people have done it. Charities and ministries have fed people in the open air for decades, if not 2 centuries, in Philadelphia. They're now saying they have to be in certain places, and I think it's in Philadelphia, but also, I believe in California, they're reclassifying soup kitchens as restaurants. And I wonder, are they trying to close our heart? Are they trying to get more power and make people dependent on them? Or is this just a city, a state, and a federal government that needs those tax dollars, needs all that regulation to be able to generate money for the cities? Which is it, or is it both?
Well, I think what you said earlier kind of hits the nail on the head. We've been asleep at the switch. We haven't seemed to have cared enough. Particularly the people we've elected. The people here in Washington don't care about your privacy or state rights or individual rights, the difference between the federal government and the state government. It's lost on these people. They care about what a majority can pass, and if a majority can pass something and they want to appear to do good, they don't care about the nuance of the Constitution or the nuance of state versus federal rights. So they pass these things. George Will has said it many times. We have abdicated. Congress has abdicated our power to these regulatory agencies. And literally, the position of a U.S. senator or a U.S. congressman is diminished such that your average ordinary bureaucrat over in the EPA has more power than I do.
So how do we get rid of the drones?
Well, I think what we've done with the drones is we have said you have to have a warrant to use them. Now, I'm not against using them for national defense or for border security or for various other reasons. If you've got someone who robbed a liquor store, is fleeing down the street, a helicopter, a plane, or a police car is fine with me. But I don't want them crisscrossing neighborhoods and mapping out our every movement if there's no probable cause that we've committed a crime.
Rand, I am glad to have you in the Senate. I am so glad that you are there. I think you're one of the strong voices. You and Mike Lee and people like that, Jim DeMint, are standing, and I believe you actually have a spine and one of the good guys who just will keep taking the hammering no matter what, and hammer back.
Well, I may be seeing you. I think I've been invited to a Freedom Fest down in July in Texas. I think they said you're speaking down there, and I think Ted Cruz, who's a friend of mine running for the Senate down there, is going to be at that event also.
Oh, I didn't know you were coming to that. That's by Freedom Works.
Yeah, Freedom Works, and I think it's in July sometime.
Yeah, July 26th. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to help my friend Ted Cruz get elected to the Senate down there too.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I don't think we've ever met, have we?
Yeah, maybe in the television studio one time, but I think I've never interviewed in person with you. It's always been on the phone. My staff has told me to keep my distance.
I believe that to be true. And they're very wise. Rand, thank you very much, and I appreciate it. God bless.
All right, thanks, Glenn.
You bet. Bye-bye. He's great.
Yeah, he is.